What's up, YouTube? This is Cosmic Raven, otherwise known as Cosmic Raven 68. This is a video that is a wrap-up video after farming New York City on story mode, 4th Agent Farming on New York City. So I already have another video up where I have the prep steps, things you do before you go to New York and you start farming. And you should watch that before you do it because there's a couple of little gotchas. But it explains the process of what we do, why, and when you want to do certain things. And there's a corresponding set of things that you want to pay attention to at the back end of New York. So that's what this video is going to cover. Now I'm open up to my main agent here, and we got my inventory here of everything. So I just want to recoup some things. First off, what we're talking about is sharing materials and resources between the different agents on the same player account. And I just want to make sure everyone's clear that some resources are not shared between Agent 1, Agent 2, Agent 3, and Agent 4. Credits are not shared, okay? And supplies, your components, your food, and your water, they are not shared between your resources. And I'll touch on how this will impact you further on down in the video. But all of the optimization materials, once you purchase a blueprint from Anaya in the White House for shared account materials, and you must purchase it on each agent that you want to share the materials with. So if you only wanted to share the materials between Agent 1 and Agent 2, those two agents would have to buy the blueprint, and then Agent 3 and Agent 4 would have independent materials if you had 4 agents, okay? So I have all 4 of my agents sharing materials, but because we delete the 4th agent and we recreate the 4th agent, we want to purchase the blueprint to share account materials at a particular point. And I'm going to get to that as this video progresses. But right now, I have not yet purchased that on my 4th agent. So anything I did in New York City and anything I've done after killing Keener has not yet been reflected in my main agent's inventory totals. This is what my main agent started with, okay? And all of the optimization materials are typically used for optimization with the exception of one. Field recon data, we will use that, and shade calibration data. We will use these 2 resources for expertise. So they're not just optimization materials, they're also materials used in expertise as well. But all of your tactical assessments, you get 1 tactical assessment for killing a named elite from whatever faction. So if I killed a named elite outcast, this 977 would turn to 978, and so on and so forth. Alloys, you get 1 weapon alloy for deconstructing 1 copy of that weapon, okay? So this means I've literally deconstructed thousands of each weapon type, and I'm over the limit. You'll notice that the limit over here is 999, but I'm over that. I'll cover how I got over the limit. That factors in when I buy the blueprint shared account resources, okay, shared account materials. The gear weaves is what you will use when you optimize gear pieces. The weapon alloys are what you use when you optimize weapons. And when we say optimize, we're talking about improving an individual attribute roll. So max weapon damage core attribute would be 15%, but you pick up a copy that had 12%. So how do you get the other 3%? You use optimization, and it would take several optimization rolls to move it from where it is to the max roll. And each optimization roll has a cost, and it would consume field recon data, it would consume shade calibration, it would consume a faction tactical assessment, and it would consume a weapon alloy in the case of a weapon, and it would consume a gear weave in the case of a gear, an attribute on a gear slot that you were optimizing. So that's why farming New York is very important to us, because we get massive piles of resources. And now we're going to talk about how we're going to use those resources. And there's some things we're going to do and some things we want to avoid doing. Okay, so first, I just want you to see that I have resources on my main agent, and the things I was running low on the most, you'll notice I was out of field recon data. Okay, and try to think of everything in terms of time in the game. If you farm 1 heroic control point, directives or not, doesn't matter, but it's got to be heroic, you would get 4 field recon data for conquering the heroic control point. It would pay that at the end. I believe a similar thing happens in the dark zone, but I don't know what the math is there. But landmarks in the dark zone, I believe, also pay field recon data. If you did a challenging control point, it would only be 3 field recon data upon completion of the control point. And if it were a hard one, it would only be 2. And if it were a normal or story one, it would only be 1. And that's why I am a proponent for, if you're not farming on heroic, you're not maximizing the value of your time. You get so much more experience, you get better rolls on your loot, you have higher percentage chances to drop exotics, and for control points at least, you get more field recon data for your trouble. So if you need to dial down the total difficulty that you're experiencing in the game, take directives off, but keep the difficulty level on your map on heroic. You will make more game progress that way. Field recon data, you also can buy it with scavenger points, and that is one of the main reasons why we like to go and farm New York City, is because we get Keener's watch again, and whatever points were on our main agent. So if I go to my watch here, I have 5,793 points. As soon as I completed New York, my 4th agent gets Keener's watch, right? And as soon as I unlock the watch, I immediately get 5,793 shade levels to spend. Now, I take 800 off of this number, right? And 800 off of this number is 493. I've already done the math in this calculator. Not 493, 4,993. Okay, so my 4th agent, when he gets a watch, he gets to spend 4,993 shade levels. If your watch is lower, you will have fewer points to spend. This is why we tell players, get to shade level 1,000 as quickly as possible, because when your watch is below shade level 1,000, you got to spend points on offense and on utility and on defense and on weapon handling. You can't just spend them all on scavenger points, right? So if your watch is below shade level 1,000, only every 5th shade level is a scavenger point. But once you're at shade level 1,000, you have maximized all of these offensive roles, all of these defensive roles, all these handling roles, and all these utility roles, and every shade level after 1,000 is a scavenger point. So that's the power of the watch. Get the watch up there. Now you're farming shade calibration data faster, you're farming field recon data faster, and you're also farming materials faster. But how to spend the points, when to spend the points, I'm gonna touch on all these things in this video. It's going to be quite detailed because this is a tricky subject. And we spend resources in 3 or 4 different directions. Not all resources are created the same. Some have more value for one thing than they do for other things, and you kind of need to know what's going on there. All right. So my inventory values, I have an Excel spreadsheet up here on the screen. My inventory values over here, I have transferred to this Excel spreadsheet. This is what my main agent has over here in this column. I've already filled it out. I'm not saying you need a spreadsheet, but I use one. And I set myself target levels for these different resources. This T% stands for target percentage. So I want my steel to be approximately 70% full, ideally. I don't want to go above that number, is basically what these means. Polycarbonate, I want it to be higher. I want it to be 80%. Carbon fiber, I want it to be even higher. I want carbon fiber to be at 90%. And printer filament, I want it to be at 95%. And I've set these target percentages for a reason, and that has to do with I know how often I need to spend each type of resource depending on what I am working on in the game. It may be a little bit different for you depending on what you are working on in the game. And what I mean here is, are you optimizing more? Are you working on expertise more? Are you donating materials to gain proficiency more? These are 3 different game objectives that are all in the same kind of neighborhood, in the same kind of zip code, but they live on different streets. And so we gotta, you know, if I was going to give you directions on what to do, well, it depends on where you want to go. Okay. And I'm not going to explain this entire spreadsheet, but I do want to point out some highlights. Okay. First off, some things we can straight up buy with scavenger points from our Shade Watch. Some things we can buy credits and get them indirectly. And some things we can craft at the crafting table. And there are arguments for doing some things one way and some things another way. So I'm going to take my main agent here. And I'll walk up to the crafting bench.
Thank you for your cooperation.
I hung down there because I knew less characters would talk. So,
sorry I'm out of supplies, but you're welcome to use the crafting station.
oh,
Later.
I can't show you any blueprints that she has. Okay, well, never mind. I'll cover the blueprints when I'm logged into my other agent. All right, over here, optimization. Okay, you could craft at the crafting table field recon data. I don't recommend you do it, okay? But you could. In a pinch, it's not too expensive. 50 steel, 50 polycarbonate, 50 ceramics. These are 50 of each of the green materials, which are the cheaper materials. So, but don't try to do it this way. Try to get your field recon data by farming control points or landmarks in the dark zone, or by spending scavenger points directly on field recon data. You will end up mathematically further along in the game if you just spend the shade levels on field recon data. Now, I can illustrate the example of field recon data even more so for shade calibration, because look at the cost over here. 500 electronics, 500 carbon fiber, 500 titanium. These are the expensive resources, the expensive materials, okay? And they want you to spend 500 of each, and that's going to get me 5 shade calibration? Screw that, okay? And I have math to back that up too, by the way. If I come over here to, here's the optimization materials, right? Okay. I can buy a bundle of 5, right, with crafting, and that bundle is going to cost me 5,000 credits. It's going to cost me 500 electronics, 500 carbon fiber, and 500 titanium, okay? That means I'm going to spend the equivalent, if I express those resources in terms of shade points, in terms of scavenger points from my Keener's watch, it would cost me 60 shade levels to get to get 5 shade calibration. If I just spend the watch point directly on a shade calibration, I get 1 shade level for, shut up, Anaya, jeez. Let me move away from that table so I can express what's going on again. I'll come back when I actually want to show you something. Everybody in the White House wants to add character and talk, so I lowered the volume of things so they appear louder in my ears, probably to you. But, okay, so if I were to take these 60 shade points and buy shade calibration directly by way of my Keener's watch, go in here, go to Scavenger Points, and buy shade calibration, I would get 1 for 1. So right now I only got 3 points. I would get 3 shade calibration for 3 points, okay? If I spent the same 3 points into carbon fiber, I would get 75 carbon fiber. I wouldn't even come close to being able to craft 1 shade calibration. So that's why these gold squares in this spreadsheet, this is really what we're going to focus on here. The ideal way to acquire each of these resources is wherever I have marked it in gold. Okay, and this, by the way, should be the same as that. Except I want to see the decimal places. That's what that should have been. Okay. Now I can save my spreadsheet. All right. So you spend, if you need shade calibration or you need field recon data, you spend watch points directly on those things. Okay. The only other alternative to acquiring those things is crafting, and it's too expensive. And there is another alternative, and that is you farm control points for field recon data. All right. And some missions will pay you shade calibration at the end, but they only pay like 5, and it's like usually like a weekly mission or something like that. So it's actually really hard to get shade calibration. You're more likely going to spend watch points on shade calibration the entire time that you're optimizing gear. But when you start moving to expertise levels on gear, you're going to find yourself spending less on shade calibration and more on field recon data. So across everything we could do with resources, field recon data is the one you need the most of. But if you're optimizing, you will find yourself burning through shade calibration data a lot. Okay. Now I'm going to walk back up to that table. Oops. Helps if you go the right direction. Back up to that table. I'm going to go into the crafting table, into optimization, and I'm going to look at the cost of some other things. Weapon alloy bundles, we're not going to get them this way. Okay, so in my spreadsheet here, here's my weapon alloys down here, and this table is weapon alloys. This table is weaves for all my gear pieces and my weaves. And these orange squares that I have highlighted throughout these different sheets, the orange squares tells me of something that is not practical, incredibly not practical, and it's in some cases it's impossible because it becomes a circular reference. What do I mean by that? In order to craft backpack weave, you must have protective fabric. How do you get protective fabric? You deconstruct pieces of gear. When you deconstruct pieces of gear, guess what you also get? You get gear weave. So there's no point in crafting for backpack weave, chest weave, gloves weave, holster weave, knee pad weave, and mask weave because you will spend less resources by just taking your watch points, buying credits with your watch points, and deconstructing or taking the credits to a vendor, buying a bunch of backpacks, deconstructing the backpacks. It is far cheaper that way to get backpack weave or to get glove weave or to get knee pad weave.
Crafting materials.
Shut up, Anaya.
I really should make myself a nice comfy chair.
I'd love to make a nice gag to put in your mouth. Can we get into that? A little bit of S&M never hurt anybody. All right. Now, same logic applies with weapons. Weapons require receiver components. If I want to get gun alloys, I've got to get receiver components. Well, how do we get receiver components? We deconstruct weapons. Well, if we're just going to deconstruct weapons, won't we get weapon alloy by deconstructing the weapons? Yes, we will. So it's better to take your shade points, put them into credits, and if you need, if you're working on a bunch of, let's say you got a favorite SMG that you want to optimize and you don't have enough submachine gun alloy, then go to a vendor who's selling submachine guns, buy 100 submachine guns with credits, deconstruct them immediately, and you will get a pile. I'm going to show you that in a second. I've already staged it on my other one. So there are certain things you do and certain things you don't do. Up here, I want you to look at this table. Up here, I have in Excel. These three little tables are all one big story. So let's say you had a shade level watch of 1,000 and we take away the 800 points. You would have 200 scavenger points that you could spend. You could get 2 million credits for those 200 scavenger points. That's one thing you could do. If you bought a number of backpacks or chest pieces or weapons and deconstructed them, you could acquire this much receiver components and this much protective fabric. You also would require however many backpack weave or whatever gear it was you deconstructed, or however many weapon alloy you deconstructed. But right now I'm only looking at the receiver components and the protective fabric. Well, in order to get these things, we would have to deconstruct things. So that's why it makes no sense to try to, we don't target with our shade points receiver components or protective fabric. They are a consequence of targeting other things. Just like when you pick up gear off the battlefield and you decide you don't want to keep it. Shut up, Anaya. Jeez. So frustrated with her. When you pick up stuff in the battlefield and you deconstruct it, you're going to get some protective fabric, you're going to get some different components, and so on and so forth. And to give you an idea, I've already done this. This is how I did my analysis. Here's 100 backpacks. 100 backpacks will get you 2,800 protective fabric on average. It varies. It's not an exact science. It's an RNG roll. But it will always give me 100 backpack weaves so long as I have space to store the 100 backpack weave. And this 100 got me 192 ceramics, and it got me 64 polycarbonate. The next 100 I got 3,000 protective fabric. Still got my 100 backpack weave. They were Golan Gear backpacks, so I had room in my Golan Gear fabric. I was able to retain 77. The reason why I only got 77 is not 100 is at the moment when I deconstructed these 100 backpacks, I pushed Golan Gear limited ceramic system up above its ceiling, so now I can't acquire any more. And on this deconstruction of 100 backpacks, I got 88 polycarbonate and 176 ceramics. So I've kept research on deconstructing weapons. I usually do it in batches of 100. And I have calculated tables. These are how many I deconstructed. I did some math, and then I kept a rolling average of everything I deconstructed, and I come up with, hey, if I, over time, what does one backpack give me? I'm sorry, what is one marksman rifle? This is a marksman rifle. What does one marksman rifle give me? Well, it'll give me 27.6 receiver components. It'll give me approximately 1 polycarbonate. It will get me approximately 2 steel, and it will get me 1 marksman rifle alloy. So for deconstructing one marksman rifle, on average, that's what's going to pay. One marksman rifle, if you deconstruct it, you might get more of any one of those categories, but some marksman rifles won't give you any. So that's an average across all 600 that I deconstructed. Okay, so that's my sample size, 600. And then I did backpacks, and here's what you get off of a backpack. This is the per backpack average, and this is the total I got off the 600 backpacks that I did. And here's 600 chest pieces. So I've calculated the numbers to get my findings. When I tell you, you want to do it this way and not that way, I did some research behind it, and I'm just showing you the research, okay? I'm backing up my assertion here with actual research. Let me go back over to this inventory thing. So I want to talk about one of the things we can do with materials is donate for proficiency. So when you're grinding through proficiency at the recalibration table, so we're going to go over to the girl that doesn't speak. I like her. She's quiet. And we go into expertise. And right now, I'm just going to go to specialization. Before I shot this video, I confirmed the donation thing. So see this little green progress bar over here? I'm going to call that a proficiency step. There are 10 steps in a proficiency rank, or otherwise known as a proficiency level. So if you go 10 steps, you're on proficiency rank number 2 or proficiency level number 2. The gray cost, or the white number down here in each of these boxes, is what it would cost for one step, one distance of this green bar as progress, right? So I've put those in a table over here. I've taken those costs and I've put them right here in the table, okay? That's what this second little table is right here. So I could donate 400 receiver components, 400 printer fabric, so on and so forth, all right? Then it's like, okay, how many scavenger points do I have? So if you're a shade level 1000, you would have 200 scavenger points to spend after going through New York if your watch was exactly shade level 1000. With those shade level 1000, you could spend any column, only one column though, okay? And then if you were to donate all of the resulting materials that you got, how many proficiency levels could you acquire for the 200 scavenger points? Well, it depends on what you're donating. So you would make the least progress trying to do receiver components and protective fabric. You would make better progress with the greens. The blues are very expensive, but purple is where it's at. This is why I say if you're smart, you will donate more printer filament than anything else. But you'll notice I have 2 columns of printer filament. I have printer filament direct and printer filament indirect. That's what these 2 columns mean. Direct is, if I'm in here and I go into my shade watch and I go to my scavenger points, I can spend 1 scavenger point and get 10 printer filament. That's what this row down here costs, okay? That is what printer direct is in this spreadsheet, this column right here, okay? But printer indirect is something. What is printer indirect? Printer indirect is I don't get my printer filament from scavenger points directly. I go over here to the vendor and I scroll down, and the vendor will almost always have a mod chip for sale that is 4,517 credits. And if not, he'll have a mod chip that's for sale for 4,519 credits, okay? You will be able to find one of these 2 mod chips, not exactly the same mod chip, but you'll find them at this price. You'll find a mod chip at this price point. If not at this price point, you'll find one at this price point. This particular week, we have both of them. But the cheapest, you'll buy the cheapest mod chip. It doesn't matter which mod chip you buy. They all, when deconstructed, will give you 6 printer filament. So the indirect column is I took 200 scavenger points and I bought the 2 million credits. This column here, the D $, that's the credits in the game, Division 2 credits. And I took the credits to the vendor and I bought batches of mod chips, 100 mod chips at a time. I mark them as junk and I deconstruct them. And when I deconstruct them, then I can donate those mod chips. I can donate the printer filament for progress on proficiency. And if I do it that way, I get more progress. I get more proficiency levels. These are full-fledged proficiency levels, okay? I only get 6.67 for if I spend the points directly on printer filament, but I get 8.85, 30% more, like 37% more if I spend them on credits, take the credits and buy printer chips, mod chips, deconstruct the mod chips, and get printer filament. So if you want to donate materials for proficiency, you're going to spend most of your points on credits, and you're going to buy mod chips, deconstruct, and donate the printer filament. People are like, I ain't got that kind of time. I'm just going to spend it on printer filament directly. Okay, just understand that you're costing yourself 30% progress. You could do 30% more progress by taking your time. And what I do,
Good trading with you, Agent.
I'm going to log out of this agent because I've got things staged on my 4th agent already.
Mic off. Mic on.
What I do is I take the game and I make it a window instead of full screen because I'm on PC and I can do that. You guys on game console, you'll probably have a computer sitting next to you or something like that. But I will do something else on my computer. I'll watch YouTube videos or I'll watch sports or something like that while I'm doing it. So I literally go in here, I go to video, I put this to window, I apply. What? Windowed, and then I apply. And there, now I'm on windowed mode, okay? And I can sit there and buy my mod chips from the vendor and keep buying and buying and buying and deconstruct, okay? So this is what I do. And I'll have YouTube up on the other part of the screen while I'm doing it. And I know which buttons to push, and I just push them and push them and push them. Okay, so that's how I do it. You'll make more game progress if you do it that way. Now, let me show you what I did on this agent. This is my 4th agent. I've already spent a bunch of his resources. I did 2 things. First, I got rid of all of the gear that wasn't the delete me build. Remember in my prep video, which you should watch before this, I created a loadout of all level 1 gear. And I put that on my agent when I'm ready to delete them. Well, this agent will be ready to be deleted once I spend all of his scavenger points and once I spend all of his resources. The other loadouts I had created, one for level 30, starting to farm New York, and I created a level 40 build when I went to go kill Keener, okay, on Liberty Island. I actually put level 40 gear on and went and kicked his ass quite handily. I put all those gear pieces in my stash, so they are no longer on, and I have none of... There's no additional gear other than this level 1 gray stuff, which has no value at all. The reason why I did that is it emptied my backpack. And then I went to the vendor and I purchased 100 backpacks. This is one I was working on, so that's why that one's marked as... But all the other ones with exclamation points, I just purchased those. So there are 100 Fenris backpacks in here. Okay, or I'm sorry, HG Hadsburg Guard, HG backpacks in here that I can deconstruct. And I'm going to go in here, and this is, you just press the button, press the button, press the button, spam it. When you get down to the bottom and you keep pressing the button, the last backpack is going to toggle on and off between the trash can icon and the backpack icon. So I'll know when I get done, because after I press the button 100 times, I wish key repeat would actually work here. So see if I keep pressing that, it keeps toggling. I'm going to leave it on delete. And then down here, I also bought 100 of the mod chips that costs 4,517 credits. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to mark all these as junk. So I've already spent a lot of my watch levels, my scavenger points on credits, and I went to the vendor and I bought those items so you didn't have to watch me buying them. So I bought 100 of each. I bought 100 mod chips and I bought 100 backpacks. And now they're all marked. And I'm going to hit delete. And here's what I scored. So I got my 600 printer filament, okay, for the 100 mod chips. I got 99 backpack weave. I'm sorry, I bought 99 backpacks, not 100. I stopped at 99 for some reason. So normally I would buy them in blocks of 100, but because I had one in there, I probably thought I already had bought one, so I stopped at 99. But even still, I got 2,600 protective fabric. I got 168 ceramics. I got 112 polycarbonate. All the numbers that are not printer filament came from the backpack. The printer filament came from the mod chips. So if I go into my resources here, I started amassing resources. So my printer filament, and you'll see I'm at 616. The 16 is what I acquired while I was running through New York. I also bought some printer filament off camera, and I did an optimization roll. I actually had tried to start this video, so I was going to show you an optimization and things that I do, and that video didn't work out. Someone came in and started talking to me, so I had to cancel in real life, and I had to cancel the video. God darn real life getting away of game life again. So one of the things you have to be cognizant of is, remember that I wrote down my main agent's totals over here. So the total that I'm closest to going over on is titanium, and the other total I'm closest to going over on is steel. My printer filament's only 441, and protective fabric, I had spent them down into the triple digits over here where my mouse is hovering. So 561 receiver components, 831 protective fabric. That's what's on my main agent right now. So this fourth agent already has more receiver components than my main agent. And he already has protective fabric more than my main agent, because you just saw me deconstruct and get a couple thousand of that. My carbon fiber has also gone up because I spent a bunch of points on it. I have set myself targets. So if I just look at carbon fiber over here, remember I got 5,000 watch points to spend roughly, right? So my carbon fiber on my main agent was 2,281. I want to be at 90%, so I know that I want to kind of buy 6,718, and I started buying that off camera before this video was recorded. That's where that big pile came from right there. I've already spent several watch points. Remember I said I would touch on what happens, why we wait before we buy the shared account materials blueprint. You see here I have 2 Golden Gear whatever you call it, ceramic system. I call them fabrics in general. And I've got 4 Gilligard and 1 Richter Kaiser and so on and so forth. These are things that I deconstructed. And apparently I deconstructed a boatload of Murakami in the middle of New York while I was farming it, right? Because the backpack I just deconstructed was Hadsburg. I just did 20 copies of Hadsburg and apparently 29. So I had done some extras, right? So this 129 Hadsburg guard materials, the moment I buy the blueprint for shared account materials, this 129 will get added to whatever that first agent has. If that first agent already has 999 Hadsburg, this 129 will get added on top of it, and that's how you go over the limit. So you want to do as much as you can on your fourth agent before you do shared account materials. You want to spend the bulk of it, especially if you're going to be deconstructing backpacks and whatever. And then you want to make sure that you're not going over on this, because the moment you buy the blueprint, you're going to go over there. So you need to have a plan to burn off some resources, especially receiver components and protective fabric, because you don't want to leave yourself in a position that when you're playing the game on your main agent, you pick a backpack up off the battlefield and you decide it's junk and you deconstruct it. You don't want to see no protective fabric scroll on your screen. You want to get some protective fabric because it's just free materials that you can spend for proficiency. So you need to make sure that you don't stack up over the limit on stuff you can acquire easily off the battlefield. I don't worry about the brand fabrics. These are brand fabrics. They're used at the crafting table. If I want to craft a piece of Fenris, I will have to spend so many Fenris AB Trazer cloth in order to fabricate at the crafting table a Fenris chess piece, for example. Okay, I don't know what the cost is, it doesn't matter, but you need the Fenris, you need to have deconstructed copies of Fenris in order to craft Fenris. That's how the process of crafting works. I don't craft a lot, so I don't really use these resources. So I don't care if these resources go over. And I care a little bit less on the weapon alloys. So over here you can see that I deconstructed 1 assault rifle, and I deconstructed 1 rifle alloy, 1 rifle, and 5 shotguns when I was farming New York City. And by the way, you only get credit for deconstructing yellows as far as weapon alloy is concerned or gear weave is concerned. If you deconstruct a purple, you'll get materials and you'll get protective fabric, but you won't get the gear weave. And if it's a weapon, you won't get the weapon alloy. So it has to be a yellow item that you're deconstructing. This is another argument for setting your map to heroic, is because more yellows drop in general. And coming in 2024 in February, they are going to lock the loot boxes that you pick up around the map to the difficulty that you set your map. So now on a heroic map, when you go pick up a gearbox or you go pick up a weapon crate, it could drop a purple item. That's going to change after February 2024. It'll drop a yellow item then. They're going to skill the loot on the map to the difficulty of the map, which will make it more advantageous for us as players. They're trying to be more cognizant of the grind that we put into the game and make it easier for us to grind. They're going to adjust a bunch of other prices too. So some things you see in this video are subject to change in February 2024. So I'm going to go through and spend a bunch of stuff right now in front of you, the stuff that I can do quickly. I'm not worried too much about the alloys. I'll do some of that off screen, but one of my objectives that I had down here in the gear weaves, I want to buy and deconstruct 750 backpacks. See down here, this backpack row? I only have 149 on my main agent, and my target is 90% because I'm going to optimize a bunch of rolls on backpacks, and I keep burning through those. And I also do chest pieces, and I've been doing holsters a lot lately. I've been working on some holsters, so I got to fill holsters back up. Now, these targets that I'm going to buy, I may not have enough scavenger points to buy all of that. It's more of a buy no more than this kind of target rather than buy exactly this much. But I'm not going to bore you with the details of me buying 100 backpacks and deconstructing them in front of you. I pre-bought 100. I deconstructed them so you could see what I was doing and why. And basically, I minimize the window and I sit here at the guy. Here, I'm going to buy 5, okay? Actually, I'm going to buy 2 because that's all the credits I have. Actually, I won't even be able to buy 2. I got to get more credits. So I spend most of my time converting points to credits. Let me just put another 500,000 credits on here because that's the way it's going to go for a while. And what I normally do is I pull out the calculator and I calculate the math of how many credits I need for 100 backpacks, and that's how many credits I make sure I have. I make sure I can't buy 101, and that way I can keep collecting metrics of what I get for 100 backpacks. That's because I'm doing some analysis as the game goes by. But if you have the window minimized, it's just press spacebar. And I'm just pressing spacebar. I'm doing it kind of slow right now, but if you spam it, that's about how fast it can go. Watch a movie while you do it. And then once you get your inventory full of backpacks, you go in and you mark them all as this, right? And then you deconstruct them, and it's go back and repeat. And I do this while I'm watching sports or something like that. That way I'm making some game progress, but I'm doing the administration and logistics of the game. Now, after I do that enough, one of the things I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to pay close attention. The limits that I see here are not the same as these limits over here. This column on my spreadsheet over here, you could have written it down on a piece of paper. You don't need it in a computer. I'm just a computer guy. This is exactly what's on my main agent right now, okay? So what I wanted to buy is this number. So this is the number, this column over here, this buy column. I want to make sure that my carbon fiber is not higher than 6,718. So I'm just going to show you one example. I'm going to do another 500. Give me 25. Give me. So now I'm at 6,000, right? 5,995 is as close to 6,000 as I can get without going over it. And then what did I want? I wanted another 718, right? So the closest I can do with shade points is 725. So that's okay. I can do 725. So now when I go in here, I'm going to make sure this says 725. Now 6,720, and my target was 6,718. So I'm literally 2 carbon fiber over the limit I set for myself. Okay, I will go through and I will spend shade points on each one of these resources. I want my polycarbonate to be at 6,000 here. So I'm going to go to polycarbonate. I'm going to do it in even thousands. There's 2. Let me round it up to, there's 4. I'm at 4. And my ceiling was going to be for 6,000, so I want to add 2,000 more polycarbonate. All right, now I've reached my ceiling that I set for myself, and that was to be when I take the resources from this agent and I buy the blueprint that says shared account materials, these 6,004 polycarbonate are going to get added to these 1,999 polycarbonate that are on my main agent, and that's going to bring me up to 7,999 polycarbonate. The ceiling is 9,999 polycarbonate. I want it to be at 80% capacity. And the reason why I want to have 20% free space is, what am I going to do when I'm done with this logistical thing that I'm doing? I'm going to get on my character and I'm going to go farm and shoot stuff, and I'm going to pick stuff up off the battlefield, and I'm going to be looting things. So let's say I come across a lockbox in the middle of a mission. If you pick up one lockbox, it has an RNG chance to drop 100 of one material on you right then and there. And you can actually get 100 from 2 different materials. So, but the most you can get of one material is 100. So if I did that 20 times, I would go over the limit of what I have on my agent, okay? So I want to make sure that I'm spending points responsibly, but not setting myself up to go over the limit. I want to leave myself some empty space in my inventory so that as I'm playing the game, I can collect all those goodies too. I want every material I can get, whether it comes from New York, whether it comes from regular gameplay, whether it comes from a cache, from an event, or whatever. I want to make sure I have room. That's another point. If you play the seasons, in the seasons menu in the rewards tracks, you can get caches that have resources. Well, if you don't have room in your inventory and you're already at the limit and you open that cache, guess what? You missed out. The extra resources go into thin air, the great bit bucket in the sky, and you've lost them, and that means you can't spend them. So I will, and I don't have to, by the way, I want to point out, there is no requirement that I spend these points right now. I can spend them later as I want to. Where you really have to pay attention is when you buy the blueprint. So I'm going to buy the blueprint right now because I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to shoot a whole video about me filling up every category to my target, but I'm going to go over here on this agent.
Hey,
I'm going to buy that
I love
blueprint.
blueprints, but can I help you craft something?
And now I just combined my 4th agent with my 1st agent. And if I go into here, into this watch, and remember carbon fiber, there I am at 9,001. And if you scroll back the video, some of that 9,001, approximately 7,000 of it came from this 4th agent. I spent the scavenger points to get 7,000 carbon fiber here, and the remainder of it came from what was on my main agent. And I had already pre-bought some shade calibration. I only had 1 field recon data on my main agent. I bought 500 field recon data before this video started on this agent, and they just bumped me out of my inventory. How rude. So now I'm all mashed together. Now anything I do on one materials wise goes to the other, with the exception of credits. Credits do not go. So now I can let this 4th agent chill, okay? I can go play the game on my 1st agent, and I'll leave these points in the bank. A lot of times I'll just leave these points in the bank until I run out of something. Then I'll log off of one agent, buy the materials, buy shade levels, buy printer filament via mod chips or whatever it is I need, then log back in the other agent after I filled up the tank. Now there is one thing else, and it just hit me, and the thought is fleeting because I guess I'm getting older. Oh, yes. So I created this agent. Today is Sunday, December 30th, 2023. And the server resets every Tuesday night. Now, when you watched me in the prep video before farming New York, I deleted my 4th agent. Then I go and off camera, I go farm New York, and now I'm back on camera after farming New York. But guess what I get as a bonus? As a bonus, I can go back in here to projects, and I can recomplete the shade requisition project. I had already completed this on my 4th agent, and I forgot to tell you guys this in the prep video, but before you delete your 4th agent, you want to go into projects and make sure you've completed the weekly shade requisition project, because that's a free exotic. Now, having farmed New York and being flush full of resources, I can go in here, and everything that I picked up or deconstructed, I can afford to do that project all over again. And I just burnt through, and now I've completed that. And that gets me another exotic, right? There's a copy of blue screen. So having 4 agents on your account, I also picked up a Gilligard. Oh, that's not bad, actually. Actually, not bad at all. You know what? I'm going to mark that as a donation. You know what I can do with that? Because it came organically with a red critical hit chance and weapon handling. It would fit into any build, any weapon type. These are generic red bonuses, and I can use recalibration to take the armor off and put max weapon. It's a perfect talent, so on named backpacks and chest pieces, you don't ever worry about recalibrating the talent because you can't. They're perfect talents. So in a shield build with an SMG or something like that, this would be important. And I can make that a red one. And if I do it with the Ninja Bike Messenger backpack, if I wear 2 pieces of Gilligard, I will get the extra armor regen bonus. But it's not likely I'll use it, so that's why I marked it as donation, not as a favorite. And before I forget, I'm going to put these 2 items in my stash so that I don't lose them, okay? Where'd the other one go? You guys saw that, right? I had, oh, it's a, there. It's a chest piece. That's where it went. It does help if you pay attention to what category the item is. Okay, we'll put that over there. All right, and now I'm going to deconstruct the exotic. I didn't even look at the blue screen rolls because I already have a blue screen that's expertise level 11 or 16 or something like that. And what is this? Apparently we can craft a blue screen now because I got all kinds of pieces and parts for it. Okay, I'm going to ignore all that. So long as my inventory has 1 exotic resource in it, I don't care about that other stuff. So if I come down here, exotic components. I got 1 exotic component. I have spent all my exotic components. I've been upgrading stuff regularly. Okay, so now I've spent it. Keep in mind that, you know, my inventory is probably more full than yours. So I'm keeping these as scavenger points to spend in the future. So this is my bank. These occupy no inventory space, and I won't lose them. And if I go to my main agent right now and I farm a control point and I get an experience level and my watch goes up 1, I will actually get 4 scavenger points to spend. 1 on this agent and 1 on every other agent. I will get 1 on the first agent, second agent, third agent, and fourth agent because I have 4 agents on my account. And every week when they put out the new projects for Shade Requisition, I do that project 4 times a week. So that's 4 exotics. And if you wanted to run the Legendary Stronghold every week and get an exotic that way, I could run it 4 times, 1 on each agent. And if I wanted to do 30 summit levels on each agent, I could get 4 more exotics that way, 1 for each agent. So this is why you want to have multiple agents on your account. And the 4th agent is the one that we delete, recreate, we delete, recreate, and in between there, we're farming New York because we get piles and piles of resources. So hopefully you get some value out of this. Anything that I missed in the video that I forgot to talk about, check the first post in the comments. I'll usually put notes there. I'm sure I will have forgotten something or didn't expound on a point correctly or something like that. Let me see, was there anything else I wanted to show you guys? I showed you the deconstructions. Yeah. Hang on, one more trip around here. Oh, yes, there is one more thing. I'm glad I paused. There's one more thing. In the crafting table, one thing I forgot to mention. This I did mention. Don't craft field recon data. Don't craft shade calibration bundles. I mentioned that. Do not craft any weapon alloy. Don't waste your resources on it. Do not craft any weaves for gear, no matter what the piece of gear is or how bad you need it. Instead, take your shade points, buy credits, go buy copies of that piece of beer, deconstruct it. You'll get it cheaper. You'll get it for less. However, there's one category that it makes sense to craft at the table. This is what I forgot to mention. I might have mentioned it in another video, but I want to make sure it's covered here. So my levels are high. Here's a Black Tusk. I'm at the limit. So if I kill a named elite Black Tusk right now, I won't get credit for killing him. Only certain gear items, when you optimize them, do you use Black Tusk Tactical Assessment, and I haven't done, I think it's chest pieces and something else. I forget which weapon category. I'm over on cleaners because I killed a bunch of named cleaners while I was in New York. I did some bounties, and then those got added on top of what I had collected in DC when I merged the resources together between my 4th agent and my 1st agent. That's how I got over 999. My hyenas, whatever hyenas are involved with, I have been crafting. I have been not crafting, but optimizing those pieces of gear. And I just crafted a bunch of hyenas tactical assessment bundles, and one bundle is 10 tactical assessments, and it's a small amount of materials to craft them. But you have to think about this in terms of time. To kill 10 named hyenas takes a lot of game time. If you do a heroic control point, you get 1 named enemy on the defense of the control point. There are 3 waves. The 3rd wave has a named enemy when your city is set to heroic. And then on the counter tank of the control point, there's also a 2nd named enemy. So if you farmed 1 heroic control point, you would get 2 tactical assessments for whatever faction controlled the control point. And there are other encounters in the game, and there are named elite bosses that randomly spawn around the map. You could farm those for tactical assessment as well. But it would take a lot of time. And you'll literally burn dozens and dozens and dozens of tactical assessment for a single roll of optimization. So this is the one thing that it makes sense to craft. And let's see if I have anything I can craft right now. So I'm not going to do Black Tusk. I'm not going to do Cleaners. Hyenas, I'm at 967 of 999. It would be stupid of me to craft any because I want those open, what is that, 32 slots. I want those open 32 slots because if I kill 32 named hyenas, well, then I'm full again, all right? So I usually try to leave myself between 900 and 950. Now this Rikers down here, Rikers, I never farm New York on heroic. Why? Because I spend all my time farming it on story, and I don't want to farm it too much or I'd get bored. It's a much smaller map with fewer encounters and control points and missions and everything. So this is one that I'm going to go ahead and craft. And I'm going to keep crafting it all the way to 900 and let's say 80, okay? So I'm going to burn through all of my printer filament that I just got in the video. There, 977. That's close enough. True Sons is at 948. I actually crafted this off screen before I started this video. Remember, I tried to shoot this video before. And I stopped crafting at 948 because my ceiling is usually 950. So now I'd have to kill 52 True Sun named elites before I go overboard. And whatever I'm optimizing right now, I'm actually burning True Sun's named elites. So that number is going to go down. But I try to keep all these numbers between 900 and 950, but don't go over 950 because as you kill things on the map, you want credit for them. And then as resources fill up, I go burn them off. I go optimize something. And I don't just optimize bullshit. I've got good pieces of gear I want to optimize. So this is the one thing in here is the, again, that was tactical assessments. This is the very bottom of the optimization stuff. Faction materials, right? The faction materials, you can craft those. It is much easier to craft them, but leave yourself room to farm them organically. In a pinch, in a real dire circumstance, you need 1 or 2 field recon data to get that final expertise level on this weapon. And God, I really want it to be level 10 expertise or whatever, and I need another field recon, or level 11. I need a field recon data to do it. In a pinch, you could burn these green items into field recon data, but it is more affordable to spend scavenger points on field recon data. Nothing else. Craft nothing else in this list. Nothing. Just the factions, and in the pinch, the field recon data. So I want to make sure I leave you with that. Okay, so this is everything we do afterwards. And just to wrap up, keep in mind that my agent, my 4th agent, is almost ready to delete. He has no mod chips tucked in his mod inventory stash. He has no additional items in his backpack. It's only the items he has on. They're the worst possible items. They're level 1, and I kept them and saved them as a loadout. There's no mod chips in the 2 skills he's wearing. And if I go in here, there are no orange squares in any of that. That's the way I want to leave my agent. But I know that I have watch points. And I'm not going to delete this agent for a while. And when I decide to delete this agent is when this 3,629 scavenger points evaporates and it's 0. That's when I consider running New York again. And there have been weeks where I run New York 3 times in a single day. and I spend thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of materials doing it. And sometimes I'm not optimizing as much and I don't need as many materials, so I run New York less often. It's a place we can go to get a huge pile of resources. And don't forget, you got to get to level 40. If I didn't mention this in this take of the video, in the previous video, the prep steps, I said that when we go to New York, we only need to complete the manhunt missions. That's not 100% correct. When I went to New York and I only did the manhunt missions and I got to the ferry mission, it wouldn't let me start it because I wasn't level 40. And I was only at level 38 and a half. So in addition to the manhunt, in addition to Castle Clinton side mission is the one side mission you should do. Pier 26 is technically a mission, but you could count it as a side mission. You have to do that one too. In addition to the manhunt missions, and in addition to Castle Clinton, you want to make sure you pick up 1.5 levels outside of the manhunt missions so that by the time you're ready to get on the ferry and go chase down Keener with Alani Kelso, that you are level 40, or they will not let you start the mission. You got to be level 40. So hopefully you guys can all leverage this. I'll get this video uploaded, and anything I missed I will pin in the comments below the video, and I'll look to see you guys in the game or in the next video that I shoot.